6. Let's go!
We are ready to kick off round number 6 of 7. We've got one more round of Swiss after this, and then we'll have the top cut for you guys at home to watch to see who is going to go to the Summer Championships to represent the Americas region. We are kicking off with Muzzy versus Tarei. We talked a lot about Muzzy, and we saw his performances in the past 12 months mainly, but his just stack of great performances in general. But let's take a look at Tarei as well, because I feel like, again, as you mentioned, it's kind of just undersold every year, and we don't really know why. Top 8 of the 2014 Hearthstone World Championship, something that maybe a good portion of players watching or viewers watching might not remember that far back or even been playing Hearthstone then. So he's one of the early players. He was here right from the beginning, but a lot of just strong and steady performances, but nothing, almost like Dog, right? Nothing, no big wins out there for Tarei.
But here's the point, you know, second place at America's Summer, top 8 at Winter Championship 2017, and then top 8 at 2014 World Championship. These are not one-off tournaments. These are tournaments with huge qualifying processes to lead up to that span the entire year in some case. So Tarei consistently puts in these performances throughout those feeder tournaments to get to this position in the first place. And that's the sign of a good player, is just amassed solid win rate over a large number of games. That's what Tarei has been doing since 2014.
Yeah, I think, though, as any player who's at that point will just want the cherry on top, right? Just that big win, just to really seal the deal.
No one looks at their empty trophy cabinet and thinks, oh, it's okay, I've got 61% win rate overall, that's fine. Like, no. I mean, that you can respect them for being a good player, but personally, to them, everyone wants those wins.
I do that, Sol, but okay.
You don't have 61% win rate.
62. Let's take a look at the lineup so we can see the bans as well. Even Paladin thrown in the bin of Muzzy there, and a Q-block gone for Tarei. And the guys talked about a little bit earlier, the highlights here, I think we have to just keep a focus on. Token Druid and Odd Rogue versus the Quest Rogue of Tarei. I think that is the make or break overall in this matchup.
Yeah, Tarei does have the Wax Elementals in his Quest Rogue for a little bit of extra defensive power, but yeah, Muzzy is looking to take on those Quest Rogues and beat them up real fast. Bit of clarity on the Token Druid since Kibler stirred the pot. This is not the injured Blade Master list. Firebat and Muzzy, I believe, were messing around with a purely token-based list originally. Then they went to that mid-range list with Oaken Summon's Blade Master, like Kibler was talking about. But now for this playoffs, they're back to just pure tokens. Whispering Woods, Make Things, Soul of the Forest, Savage Roar, Branching Paths, kill you.
Yeah, and I'm personally not super sold based on what I've seen on stream so far of that deck. It was up against Taunt Druid when I saw it, though, and the taunts were live, so it's very difficult to punch through that kind of health that Taunt Druid actually provides. But then again, you know, I'm not as good as Muzzy, and Muzzy must be doing something right to be at the score he's at. So I'm excited more than anything to see if this Token Druid's going to impress on this stream match, at least.
Yeah, same. I mean, I'll confess I haven't tested the deck a ton. I've played a good chunk of the injured Blade Master Druid.
So is Kibler.
Yeah, so is Kibler, but not the Wisp Surgeon. So I'm quite happy to let Muzzy rock with this one and see what he can do with it. The one showing that we saw, as you mentioned, Muzzy's matchup that he had was basically, well, I just wait until they play Hadronox and then I concede. That was basically
really
what he had in that game.
There.
And ended up being the case. I think it was like the first revive of the Hadronox that really was too much for him to get through. But very different matchups, more of the matchups that he's looking to target against Tarei.
Yeah, and I think this is almost a direct display of what TJ was mentioning, of the players that try and adapt and come, you know, flank the competition basically, and then the players that just say, no, I'm going straight at it. So Tarei bringing just a solid lineup, a lineup we've seen throughout this tournament, and then Muzzy going a little bit wide. Odd Rogue, there we go. And there's Token Druid as well. Let's not wait any longer. Round number 6 kicking off. Muzzy versus Tarei. It's going to be that Odd Rogue versus the Paladin. And this is kind of a weird matchup for me, because a lot of the time Odd Rogue can go too quickly for Paladin, but the second Paladin gets Shock and Horror, call to arms. Yeah. Well, Odd Rogue can't deal with multiple minions at once. That's its weakness, mainly, versus a board-focused deck.
Yes, it's generally, like, if the call to arms turn isn't answered by, you know, some kind of tempo play like an SS7 or something like that coming back the other way, then they just lose board too quickly. Interestingly, on Odd Rogue, I don't have the stats separated by archetypes, but Rogue is actually the second lowest performing class in the tournament based on day one at 45% win rate, tied with Mage at second worst, Hunter being at the bottom, if you're curious. It's interesting because the lineups that I suspected would do well with my other picks, I picked Terrence M with the even Shaman, Odd Rogue kind of board-based lineup, haven't been successful, and I thought the Shaman was the unsuccessful, but the Shaman's actually the second highest win rate. It seems to be the Rogues that are letting those lineups down.
Yeah, and I think because either which way you cut it, Rogue's relatively easy to target.
Yeah.
To a large extent, like you know, so the Odd Rogues can get just beaten up by like super heavy control, for example. And the Quest Rogues get beat up by super aggro, so I think potentially running into awkward matchups is what's led to that win rate of Rogue.
Very possible.
It's not like Spiteful Druid where it's like, yeah, got a pretty decent chance versus anything. Let's see how they kick it off though. The Diamol, really nice turn one play there for Muzzy, mainly just versus Paladin. It's gonna beat up 2 minions minimum, almost every single time there, so.
And the classic is back. Up until Rallying Blade came into the game, this was like the first thing you had to learn about how to beat Paladins. They could not interact with your board before True Silver Champion, essentially. Muzzy recognizes that, pushes out the Vicious Fledgling nice and early, and there you go. Tarei's only option to prevent flappy pink chaos is to throw out an equality.
Yeah, and you might think that was also, you know, maybe an overextension, a liberal use of equality, but Odd Rogue doesn't really play that many minions. It's not normally super focused on the board. A lot of the time it's some early board, and then you just kill them through a lot of just damage from hand. But so yeah, you know, that equality, as you said, saves the potential mess of the bird, but also you can just fit it in that turn. There was not much else to do. He had hero power, like Ooze, but Ooze is very good versus this deck. So
yeah. And it's just the nature of the minion as well, you know. There are minions that are persistent threats that you would wait there and just try and True Silver the next turn, right? But because it's Vicious Fledgling, it can just get Divine Shield, it can get plus health, it can get a million things that give you a huge problem with trying to True Silver it the next turn. It just has to be dealt with, especially in, you know, such a tempo-focused matchup.
Yeah, you can see the True Silver is an option now just to take down this Maul and have it locked and loaded for next turn. But that is also just relatively slow in itself, to be honest, because if Muzzy comes out with, I mean, we can see he doesn't have one, but comes out with one of the strong turn 3 plays, another bird, maybe Hench Clan, then that's a bit of a problem because then that swing's just guaranteed in, and they might just stay one more step ahead if it's followed up by a 1-drop as well.
Right.
So like Cold Blood on the Mole with a 3-drop is a bit of a problem. There's Hench Clan.
Did pick it up, but the hand is a little bit awkward. Hench Clan is just a very juicy target to drop into that already equipped True Silver right now. And Muzzy doesn't have a turn that can test the True Silver. This is why these mid-range weapons, the True Silvers, the Death Spites, things of that size in Hearthstone history have just been so powerful, is that turn 4, turn 5 is crucially, generally when you need to swing tempo against decks that require you to do so, and they just do it so perfectly over the course of 2 turns.
Yeah, I think the issue here as well is, because the dagger's at 1 durability, the poison's so much weaker.
Yeah.
And then the Squire isn't a threat that you weave in with Hench Clan this turn. If this was Cold Blood, then that feels way scarier because you have to trade into the Hench Clan to stop it growing. Yeah. But then you take a ton of damage from the Mole that you can't, realistically kill. But Muzzy just has limited options at this point. He's got to do something.
Yeah, I mean, I think this just ends up being the best play. Everything else is just too miserable. You sacrifice your Hench Clan Thug, and then you just bank on the fact that you're keeping these 2 little 1/1 bodies on the board for you, and then you're dropping your Scalebane into that the next turn and just hoping that you can diversify your threats in that manner. With the True Silver gone, it makes it very hard for the Scalebane to then be removed because even Avenging Wrath at that point would be unlikely to clear it. The equality's already been used, so you're essentially sacrificing 1 threat to allow a bigger one to stick around later on.
And this is really solid turn though from Tarei as a setup to deal with the potential issues going forward, because suddenly the way I see Tarei's plan potentially playing out here is, right, I have more minions than him, it's unlikely that he clears the whole board this turn, and the next turn I'll just Avenging Wrath, and then the turn after I'll probably just Avenging Wrath hero power, and just keep the pressure completely on Muzzy, destroy any minions he plays, and then just follow with so much pressure, because 1, his hand's relatively limited, but 2, it means if he can defend any minions, he's pushing damage himself. And Rogue's not good at being the reactive class here.
Not being able to combo this SI is a nightmare right now.
Yeah, next turn there's the hero power, Deadly Poison SI, but would have loved to have it this turn.
Yeah. And it really did throw a wrench in the plans. Like, this is the turn Muzzy wanted to make, right? But he was planning on having that dagger charge up as well. So suddenly that ooze is going down this turn, you know, or that 3/2 minion that wasn't an acidic swamp ooze would be going down this turn. Since it was an acidic swamp ooze, he didn't get the chance to do so. And now his Scalebane is a lot less threatening than it was previously.
So what do you like here? Do you like some form of Spellbreaker at Loot Hoarder, or do you just like Avenging Wrath and clean it up?
Exactly that form of Spellbreaker Loot Hoarder, as opposed to any alternative form of Spellbreaker Loot Hoarder that you could come up with.
That makes sense, because it is its final form, so there's not much else to go for after that. Let's go for Avenging Wrath instead. This makes it extremely likely that he clears the board. Oh. Now it's just good as well. Just holds a minion, doesn't even have to double trade. I think the plan here for Tarei is just clear the board, and then next turn, he has a choice between Avenging again or just Hero Power Tarim, and versus Rogue. Hero Power Tarim's a really good turn. You end up just so far ahead on board that, like, yeah, okay, if you get through the Tarim, fine, but I still have 3/3s, and you're never getting through realistically more than 1 minion per turn.
It's interesting, like, the state of the game does not look as good for me, for Tarei right now, as it would have done with the other play. Like, he would have had a 4/3 and a 2/1 on board. His opponent would have had a 1/1, right? And he would have had both Avenging Wraths still in hand to be able to push damage. And he'd have had the Loot Hoarder in play that was drawing a card quicker, as opposed to his play where he had a 3/2 in play. I'm not sure.
The difference there is just the value on them having a minion versus not, I guess, right? And that's a tough one to work out when it is just a 1/1, but when your opponent runs Cold Bloods and things like that, and any extra damage is so scary.
It's true. Yeah, Fungalmancer as well, as Muzzy's just picked up. It's worth mentioning from Tarei's perspective, those two cards we've been staring at for many turns, Leroy and Deadly Poison, have just been sat unused on the left-hand side of Muzzy's hand. So several of the cards that you put in range of those being, Cold Blood's definitely in there, Fungalmancer is potential, as well as, you know, Leroy definitely be in your mind as well.
Yeah, and any single point of damage you take that you feel like you didn't have to against a deck like Odd Rogue is horrible, right? Because, like, they do so much damage. I mean, look at this out of nowhere. The Admiral Commander's cleaned up. I imagine this is going to face for 4, so life total is even for both these players, but Muzzy does have Leroy and Deadly Poison to go up with as well. Plus, a lot of his draws are very good right now.
Yeah, just take a second, Tarei. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're going to play Call to Arms this turn, but he drew Call to Arms, then immediately went, here is the card that you cast in any given position. But yeah, Spellbreakering this first gives him now better Knife Juggler potential off the Call to Arms, because now he can snipe the 2/1 immediately without pushing damage on it. This is good sequencing in the end. Doesn't get rewarded for it with the juggles, but still, nice of Tarei to just, you know, keep the lights switched on in his head, make sure all the sequencing was done correctly.
Do you think now Deadly Poison is going to start being considered, since it's a full charge dagger, but this is the breaking point in the game right now. Yeah. Muzzy needs to think, okay, do I just go face? Am I ever winning this board? Answer's more than likely no. So do I just go face because he has Leroy, he has Fungalmancer this turn for a little bit more damage, and that Deadly Poison, which is 8 damage over 2 turns.
Right.
The issue with that is we can see a nice juicy Tarim in hand for Tarei, and once that comes down next turn, it's very unlikely that Muzzy can claw it back after that.
Yeah,
there might even just be Avenging Wrath is lethal next turn, of course, depending on what happens, but...
The chances of getting this board back, though, I agree, is super slim, because the Fungalmancer draws have just been so clunky. Muzzy's had these 2 kind of dead cards, you know, Leroy pretty dead, and Deadly Poison, just because of the way the game's played out, has been
unfortunate.
Dead for most of the game. So his chances of actually getting the board back are slim to none, because he's never had 2 minions to buff with these Fungalmancers, which is the #1 way this deck gets board. Now with a quality Avenging Wrath, that looks like a ton of damage to me. 13 to push, 2 on the board, 17. Yeah, GG. Yeah.
I think the complete correct decision from Muzzy, though, because as you can see, this just sets up lethal if there's no taunt.
Yeah.
If there's no taunt, then Leroy, 4 damage to face from dagger, gain. But not enough. As often is the case with this Paladin, if quality Avenging Wrath gets the job done, and with a nice timing Call to Arms as well. Yes, it wasn't turn 4, but it was just he just slotted that Call to Arms in just at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, it fit the curve nicely with the Spellbreaker, and it was getting to the point where he needed to make that last board push, because the Sunkeeper Tarim protecting him was one thing, but if it was Sunkeeper Tarim without a huge board being buffed alongside it, well, fine. Like, Muzzy just trades some damage into the Sunkeeper Tarei, and he draws more damage, and he keeps pushing, and eventually he gets there. So the fact that the Call to Arms was there for the setup to threaten lethal back the other way was a huge, huge difference, as Call to Arms always is. It's a heck of a card, Raven.
I've been reading some tweets today about Call to Arms, but you can find those for yourself. That was game one. Tarei taking the win there versus Muzzy. Can Muzzy fight back? We'll find out after this. We are back with Tarei versus Muzzy in round number 6 of the Swiss and of the Americas playoffs. Both players are at 4-1 score in the Swiss. A win here would put them to 5-1 and put them in a very, very nice position for that top 8 cut. But let's go. It's going to be Muzzy on his... I think he said Druid then, just because I saw Fungalmancer and Firefly. Muzzy on his rogue.
That yesterday at some point. It's just, yeah, Fungalmancer, Spiteful Druid.
Yeah, Muzzy on his rogue. Tarei on the Druid now. Tarei running the tried and tested Spiteful Druid list that we've seen quite a lot of this weekend and last as one of the overall well-rounded decks of the game at the moment. And Muzzy on this rogue. Again, I think you can get it done versus Spiteful. This is the deck that I believe, or at least I heard, that a lot of people are bringing rogue for. It's a slightly adapted list because of double Vilespine Slayer is the big change, which now I say that, double check Muzzy is playing 2 Vilespine. Yes, he is. On ladder, when Odd Rogue was kind of running rampant during the first week or so of the expansion, people were playing Ironbeak Owls just because the deck was very balls to the wall aggressive and just trying to push through damage as fast as you could.
much more important to be able to just snipe a huge Spiteful minion with a Vile Spine Slayer than silence a Taunt in this matchup. Although Spiteful Druid does have a ton of Taunt potential packed in the deck, as we saw yesterday as some odd hunters tried to deal with the threat of Spiteful Druid.
As we see right now, with 3, maybe 4, depending on how you count Saronite, Taunt minions in hand for Tarei, or potential Taunt minions. He did go for the Druid of the Scythe in charge there, so he can actually just get rid of that cold-blooded minion. Just one of the many tactics you'll see Odd Rogue employ quite often is, oh, hey, a minion's not dead. Cold blood. You know, get him. You just bank the damage every single turn. Also, as well, I will mention that Malfurion is a very big deal in this matchup. If Malfurion lands on curve or, you know, relatively soon after, like, armoring up almost negates the rogue weapon. Oh, it actually does negate the rogue weapon, because you can do it twice over 2 turns.
Muzzy. What else is a big deal is drawing patches. Thick patches.
Also known as Baku the Moon Eater, if people are slightly confused and maybe getting, you know, some kind of nightmares about you saying, well, patches is back in the game? No, not again. Double deadly, though. You could say might feel like a bit of a waste, but it punches through this Crypt Lord, and we've seen Crypt Lords cause some issues yesterday. I think you might have to just do it.
Yeah, I mean, when a Crypt Lord comes down on 3, you always have to consider, if you're going to leave it alive, you have to consider whether you can do 8 the next turn. That's basically what you have to think of, because they can either play 2 minions or they play a Saronite Chain, which buffs it for 2 anyway. Dealing 8 in that position looks kind of miserable, so yeah, Muzzy just choosing to take it out efficiently. Those deadly poisons, by the way, were why you saw Tarei just rush into the cold-blooded minion as opposed to just playing the 2/4, because otherwise dagger, deadly poison, smack your taunt, and the cold-blooded minion is still running roughshod. But Muzzy's Fungalmancer this game, a lot more on point in the previous. That is the big push turn that he needs here, because the rest of his turn was not doing a great deal.
Yeah, I will say, because I'm a glass half full kind of guy, the benefit of drawing Baku is that your draws can only improve throughout the game going forwards.
That is the most willfully optimistic thing I've ever heard.
Hey, look, if you've got it, you can't draw it again.
Jeez.
You've been through the rough patch. And I'll be honest, I think Muzzy, even with the Baku draw and the Vile Spine kind of early draw, should I say, you don't want it this early, has got away with it, right? He's had just enough to keep him going. The Fungalmancer getting pulled off there and suddenly having like a really solid board and having that huge weapon to deal with whatever he wants.
How long can this go on? I should meet you.
See, Muzzy's run through the tournament so far. As I mentioned, a 4-1 score, taking a loss to the Joe dude, someone you know quite well. And taking wins through everyone else Muzzy had to face. Took a loss round 1, so tiebreaker might not be the best. But that doesn't matter if he scores good.
Yeah, if you run out at X1, then you put your tiebreakers to bed, really. That's the point where the fate is still in your own hands. So Muzzy wants to win out from this position for sure. And he's got a good position to at least square up the series from here.
Was Swaggy G one of those Shaman players?
Possibly. It was
I don't know why that's ringing a bell.
Guys, Terrence, and one other. It might have been Swaggy G.
Well, we lost. To Muzzy. It happens. As we get back into this game, both players just struggling for board right now, but there's a significant health difference. And I said the draws could only get better. Maybe not with Firefly being drawn right now.
Liar!
I know. It's the first time for everything, so. The hero power is just a threat in itself, and I think Tarei just needs to try and hold on until he can play Grand Archivist, and then suddenly everything else is online. 5 armor, potentially, if he doesn't hit himself in the face.
Yes.
And then, you know, a minion, but most importantly, resources. Maybe he gets to that Malfurion, which will be key in surviving this game.
Yeah, just any and all taunt minions that come out from those ultimate infestation draws will be enormous, but Malfurion is, of course, the big boy.
Pretty funny moments like this. I wonder if Tarei is thinking that Baku is Leroy. I guess not, actually, because that would have been lethal, right? I think.
He traded 3 into a Spellbreaker, so yeah, it would have been.
So he knows it's Baku now.
He knows a very good chance. It took me several days when I was trying to get like hand reads on rogue opponents, where they'd have like a card in hand that they just weren't playing. Turn 6, didn't play. Turn 7, didn't play. Turn 8, didn't play. I was like, Okay, Leroy would have killed me. Like, Fungalmancer was sick there.
What is this?
He would have Valspined like that 4/4 that I had. Like, what on earth is that one card? And then eventually you just have to remember that Baku is actually a card in their deck.
Yeah. Tarei down to 9 now. There's already 5 on board. Blink Fox? Okay. Fine. Mitchwood Apple. One of my favorite arts out of the set. It's just a shame it's not played that often, at least at the moment.
I'm curious about Muzzy's previous turn, though. Like, did he need to trade in that position? Did he need to protect his board state that badly?
I'm just wondering if Malfurion comes down, that's an obstacle you have to get over no matter what.
Yeah.
There's enough minions already on the board for Tarei for that to be a problem regardless.
Yeah.
Does 1 or 2 more minions change, right? That's the question.
Like, I feel like a little bit of pressure was released from Muzzy there that's allowed Tarei to hold on this extra
Just saw
turn.
some steam coming out of Muzzy a little
Yeah,
bit.
that he needs that extra turn he needs to get to this Grand Archivist and get that 5 armor, which is then maybe the extra turn he needs to start playing some Taunt minions and Malfurion. The value trades coming back the other way were pretty miserable for Muzzy if he left if he went face, but the value trades wouldn't matter because he'd be threatening lethal so heavily that Tarei would just be forced to take the most damage off the board anyway.
Yeah, and now there are still tons of draws, right? There's still the Leroy, there's still Cold Bloods. There's 1 Cold Blood, sorry. What are the charge? SI's kind of 2 damage. Deck hands as well.
What does this one do?
Yeah, there's still a lot of juice. This is big, though. If this hits Tarei in the face, it keeps him at 6 effectively since the 5 armor gets damaged.
Oh!
Okay. Game
fans hate to see that, but
on.
Tarei drew air off that. He drew 2 Spitefuls that are now just 6 mana 4/4s because he also drew the second copy of Ultimate Infestation. He drew a pretty much dead Greedy Sprite when he already has another copy in hand, and he drew Scalebane, but he just took the board with that play. That's how important that ended up being, more so than you might have expected because he didn't draw any defensive cards off the Ultimate Infestation.
Yeah, he can set up 2-turn lethal from this hand,
Right.
basically. And there's not a lot Muzzy can do about it, and Hench Clan again, it's just... This is still 4 damage from the dagger, though. That's something to always remember. Every hero power is 4, which is kind of nuts. Just have these Trents as well that Tarei has to consider, and with no taunts and kind of, missing Malfurion so far, you can't just go face at this point, because you'll just die. Spiteful's completely gone. There's no way he kills this 2/2, right? One of the 2/2, should I say?
No, he has no way to.
Technically, if he kills with Leroy, sure, but he gets 2 1/1s then, so it's the same damage.
Yeah.
Before anyone gets, clever with me. Yeah, this is kind of a weird spot. Tarei did take the board, did get the armor, but every time Muzzy plays a minion, Tarei just can't ignore it. But the longer that goes on, the more Tarei isn't setting up lethal because he can't do the damage. Muzzy's still quite safe on 21 right now. Even with the Cold Blood draw, he's still not dead though. Leroy gets him there though, which is huge. Muzzy will probably be pretty happy to see maybe happy for 1 turn, see the UI not played. Patches? Oh, I guess it just doesn't matter, right?
Doesn't really do anything on the board.
I just don't think he can get there.
Yeah, sometimes it's an emergency drop when you can just land Baku after you've been, it's generally when you've been, really aggressively pushing against a control deck and they've used all their removal to just kill, a 1-drop that you cold-blooded and then your Scalebane. It's like, all right, well, here's Baku. This is going to hit you once and kill you. In these tempo matchups, it's just very rarely good enough.
And this is one of the, the powers of Spiteful Druid. It can just get the job done versus pretty much any deck.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show, Druid is the 4th highest win rate class in the tournament based on yesterday. 53% win rate, which doesn't sound impressive, but it's incredibly impressive when you consider it's the class everyone was expecting everyone to pick, and it's still maintained above 50% win rate.
Tarei's still no taunts. Both players have to trade into each other every turn.
Yeah, it's me UI again.
UI is really
safety.
good though.
Doesn't really care about the overdraw at this point. Yep, Bunkelmancer plus Leroy there actually for a ton of damage. But in the meantime, burning cards with Reckless Abandon. See you, Malfurion, we did it without you. You were surplus to requirements this game.
Yeah, and when you look at this, as Tarei does take it 2-0 in this series now, Muzzy effectively played that whole game with one less card in his hand than Tarei.
Yeah.
Because Baku was there and didn't even get played. It's bad enough that you have it in your hand at any given time, but not even being able to play it to get, like you said, maybe one swing out of it or something. Just no, it was just -1 card all game when you're playing a highly aggressive deck that utilizes or wants to every single card they have early on for damage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dumb joke calling it patches, but, you know, the effect is the same. If anything, it's much, much worse because...
It's not castable.
Right, patches is actually a card that can be used despite, you know, how objectively worse it is to draw it in every situation. It's still a card that you can throw out and do something with. Baku is just horrible in every scenario apart from when you're just out of resources and want a big idiot, and that just usually isn't the case in a matchup like that against Spiteful Druid. So
yeah.
Both of his opening draws in those opening 2 games have been pretty poor with that odd rogue, but that seems to be how the deck has been performing a little bit throughout the tournament.
Yeah, I'd admit, like, when it's one of the decks I went to early on in the expansion just to see how aggressive this deck can be, and it felt good some games, but its consistency felt way off for me. I didn't think it could get there enough times. This changes in a tournament format, of course. When you can ban a class, you have expected lineups to try and target, but still, the consistency just wasn't there for me. But we'll see now in a much better matchup here for Muzzy with this rogue. That's why he's just it's pretty much the reason, or one of the reasons he's brought Spiteful Druid and to beat up on the quest rogue.
Buzz, it's back.
It's Baku.
Yep. Firefly on 1 as well for the quest rogue, and Sonya in hand. The game
hate Sonya,
breaker
right?
for the quest rogue.
You dislike Sonya?
I very much dislike. I mean, I think Sonya itself is a very, very cool card. I think the combination of Sonya being a card and Quest Rogue being an archetype is a very bad one to exist in the game.
And you're about to find out why. We'll see, though, because Muzzy... Pretend you don't see that far left card, just block it from vision.
Yeah.
His hand definitely isn't bad with double Diamol and Firefly.
I think this hand's really bad.
Not aggressive enough?
Exactly. It's one attack minions. Who cares? Like, Tarei's played a Firefly, which already contests some of your board anyway.
One cold blood away from a good time.
Exactly. If this hand had a cold blood in it instead of one of the 1-drops, then we're in business.
Oh, yeah. Throwdown and Kibble's favorite card from yesterday, Wax Elemental.
I did enjoy that exchange a lot. We were over giggling like 12-year-olds on the analyst desk.
Mm-hmm. Especially because a few of the jokes actually just flew completely under the radar, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Quest is live now. No need to play it on 1 for Tarei since he had that Firefly activator, but just gonna slip it into this turn. These 2 Diamols can chip away, but extremely likely just to be a hero power turn now. Now if these moles just hit 15 times, easy.
Yeah. Ooh, the brew as well. So it looks like Tarei is going to send the point of damage into the mole and then step the Flame Elemental back with the Brewmaster, drop the Wax Ellie to protect the 3-2. Try and consolidate a bigger minion in play, and now he has pretty much committed to Flame Elementals at this point. With Sonya in your hand, there's always kind of that holdout, or you convince yourself to try and hold out a little bit longer because charge minions are just so incredibly easy to do it with Sonya. But with the pickup of the Brewmaster, I think he's decided it's well and truly time to get in on that Flame Elemental.
Mm-hmm.
There's that cold blood that we needed.
Even got the Dagger Swing to kill off the Brewmaster as well, so suddenly there is a lot of power on board for Muzzy.
Yeah.
And this could be a problem looking at Tarei's hand. He might be looking for, Vanish wouldn't be terrible here. Mimic Pod, just gonna have to play it. Nothing else to do really. Deckhands though, that I loved it. Mimic Pod, Deckhand, Hover Sonya.
He just touches Sonya.
Yeah, like.
Yeah.
You'll be on the board soon.
I think it's too slow though. You can see how much that Cold Blood just changes everything. It's so much damage per turn now, and the dagger has not had time to be equipped. So if he has to get the dagger up, he has to get Sonya down, he has to start chaining deckhands over and over. That Diamol, Hans, it's just gonna murder him.
Hans Moleman. This is not even that bad for Muzzy, although, you know, yes, Cobalt Scalebane, definitely not the best draw that turn, but he still has just dagger, deadly poison, go. That's 8 damage. There's already tons of power on the board.
Yeah.
What's that, 17? Oh, I was counting 8 with the second dagger. I'm not that bad, I was counting the total damage with what's on board.
It's too much damage is how much it is.
Yeah. And
Tarei
this is
can't deal with it.
if you were getting a bit disheartened watching this as an Odd Rogue fan, you'd probably feel a little bit better now, because this is why Odd Rogue's in the lineup.
Yeah.
And this is Conquest format. It doesn't really matter too much. You just have to get 1 win with a deck, not 3. So this is the one that Muzzy wants, the one that Muzzy needs to hold on to this match. Scalebane, not looking too hot now, are you, when you're not on 5/5?
Sorry, what? Oh, God, I got so confused. You mean Scalehide,
Oh,
right?
Scalehide,
I was like, Scalebane
Yeah,
definitely
it is a
is a 5/5.
Scalehide.
What on earth?
I get angry about Scalehide. I like the card, but wish Rogue wasn't allowed to play it. Blade Flurry. It's a blast from the past.
Little surprised that Blink Pots end up coming down here instead of the Scalebane, but I guess he just wants to make sure that dagger is continually up and pushing damage wherever possible.
So you're gonna say, yeah, a little surprise Blade Flurry got there? Oh, that's an old conversation. That's a throwback. Here comes the Sonya and the deckhands, but it's very likely just if everything dies, the dagger gets the job done at this point.
Yeah.
Ha ha.
Ha indeed.
They display the power of Sonya though. That's the quest done in 1 turn. Leroy gonna finish up this game for Muzzy, and he does fight back, getting a win finally with this Odd Rogue. Both players probably okay at this point. Muzzy's like, right, got the win out of the way with the Odd Rogue. Tarei was, yeah, worst matchup known to man,
right.
with that one. So not too terrible, but Muzzy has to continually beat down this Quest Rogue now, as it's the only deck that Tarei has left. And Muzzy has his Druid and his Warlock to go up against. So I feel like Warlock is the potential stumbling block over this Druid. Although I've yet to see the Druid play Quest Rogue, so we'll see.
It's true. Muzzy's Warlock list, as usual, is a bit strange. He's become known for these little twists on Warlock decks. The version that he brought to Worlds, I believe it was, to World Championship, I had to ask him so many questions about on Twitter just to understand what it was doing, because it was just kind of Void Lord the deck. It had Void Lords, but it had cubes, but it didn't have Doom Guards. And it was playing like 1 Doomsayer, 1 Defile, 1 Blood Mage Thalnos, like all kind of maddening things. This deck, Doomsayers are in there, 1 Plated Beetle. He has 2 Stonehill Defenders, 2 Shroom Brewers. Sounds like Control Warlock so far, right? Nope, Doom Guards, Carnivorous Cube, Lord Godfrey's in there, double Mountain Giant. It's, again, a very weird hybrid Warlock list. Muzzy's kind of become notorious for bringing these kind of things to tournaments.
Yeah, and he's a clever guy.
He is a smart dude.
He is not randomly choosing cards like funny, oh, this will be funny, haha. You know, put
I
it in
am,
the deck.
of course, contractually obliged to only say nice things to Muzzy from now on. I made him this promise on camera. I will not go back on it.
I mean, this isn't going to happen, which is very fortunate for you, but what if, like, Muzzy made the worst plays ever, and you were like, yeah, so we play this, yeah, no problem. That would hurt you very deeply
Muzzy's
in your
looking
soul.
calm and composed. Nerves aren't getting to him at all.
Okay, well, let's get into this game, though, as the Druid is the one that's queued first. Wild Growth kicking off the game for Muzzy, so he can get that ramp going.
That's a hand right there.
Yeah, it's such a weird deck, though, because it doesn't feel like a deck you bothered about ramping with that often, because you just feel it's all about those tokens. But you can get the tokens quicker, which is pretty key.
Yeah, you can also get to Ultimate Infestation quicker, which then gets you all the cards and get
one big token.
Exactly, yeah, 1 big 5/5 token. That's what a token is, right?
Well, you kind of it's classed as a token.
Yeah,
right? It's not a playable minion.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, getting to UI quickly, using UI, just have that incredibly powerful turn that UI represents, and then having all the resources in your hand to be able to go make tokens, put Soul of the Forest on them all in one turn is kind of a big break point for this deck as well. So, the ramp, as always, is important with Druid, and Muzzy just has a ton of it available.
Yeah, the double sprites now. I mean, Rogue doesn't really have a way to beat this in terms of negate the ramp. He can negate it by not putting minions on the board for him to attack into. The Wax Elemental, okay. You got me, Tarei. That does negate it. I'll hold my hands up, I'm run. But yeah, the issue is whenever you try to dodge the ramp from sprites that isn't silence, you're trading them not ramping for them hitting you in the face, which is very difficult.
There's one annoying Wax Elemental. Curious as to where this Nourish goes. I was just kind of thinking this through. Like I said, I don't have a ton of experience with this deck. Okay, Muzzy does choose to ramp, of course, with the Whispering Woods in hand.
I was wondering whether it was just Whispering Woods that turn and because you have Savage Roll next turn. Sure. It's just a lot of damage, and outside of prep Vanish, and then you just play it all again, is it that much of a problem?
Tarei's tournament record to get to this point. He picked up his loss a lot later on than Muzzy, so the conventional wisdom will tell you that his tiebreakers are probably the better of the two, although I can't speak to that with any certainty. His loss came to Nalgadan as well, a player who we've talked about a great deal both this weekend and in the past, as he's been very well represented on the HCT stage.
Yeah, again, we see a lot of players doing well so far that are just consistent, but maybe not quite there. Tarei now has the 0-mana deckhand, but not a lot else to work with. This Vanish is going to buy him some time, but a lot of the stuff you're vanishing for Druid, it's not like vanishing against Spiteful Druid, where the total cost of a Vanish for that Druid is relatively high.
Sure.
For example, if he goes Whispering Woods, then you just replay all the tokens again and say, well, what now, friend? Do you have Vanish too? If not, then that's going to be a lot of damage coming the other way.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing for the Vanish is that it's being used as a bouncer as well, which is something that you do want to try and do. You never want to be forced to just desperately vanish as Quest Rogue and just remove minions from your opponent. So the fact that he has that 0-mana deckhand to go along with it is probably the reason why that's happened. And I think Muzzy is kind of understanding the state of the game right now, going down your kind of line and saying, yeah, all right, I just have a ton of damage in my hand. Let's just make the 1/1s. Go ahead and banish this board if you need to. Yep.
And a nice little play there. The Iron of Dawn can attack next turn because now he has the mana to hero, power swipe, and savage roll. I like it. Okay. I like it a lot.
I hope you like my invention.
And there's just, I mean, does Tarei just have to vanish at this point?
I definitely think he's going to. The fear of the buffs just taking damage. Yeah, it's just too much.
Just from Savage Row.
Right.
And Hero Power, never mind anything else.
Yeah, and when Branching Paths essentially just does the same thing.
Second Savage Row, It's too much, so here comes the Vanish. Muzzy will be expected, might be a bit strong, but prepared for this outcome, as it's either the only way he doesn't die this turn is if he vanishes me, and then what? So he'll be fully prepared here.
Well, I think Muzzy understood. There were signals being sent back and forth this game. Tarei held a 0-mana deckhand in his hand, deliberately Shadow Step the turn before, going into turn 6. That's very often a signal that it's a Vanish play on the following turn. So Muzzy, to follow that up, then makes his Whispering Woods play, safe in the knowledge that if the Vanish happens, well, guess what? Wisps cost 0.
Yeah.
We've been saying since the beginning of Hearthstone, all 0-mana cards are broken at some point. The counterpoint was, well, when's it going to be Wisps time in the sun? Right now, friend.
Yeah.
Right now.
They look slightly different from maybe what you're used to, but they are still Wisps. Yeah. They just whisper. Now there's just limited game that Tarei has now at this point.
I mean, that Shadow Step is a huge deal, first and foremost.
It is. But is he just dead?
to double Savage Roar? Yeah, but from Tarei's perspective,
I mean,
that
yeah, but
gave him hope.
well, how much damage is? Isn't he just dead to one Savage? Is it one Savage Roar?
Formality, Raven.
Oh, he was one off the one Savage Roar. Okay. But we see the power of that Druid deck. Impressing me a little bit more when you get vanished and then you replay all your minions for 0.
Yeah.
Looks pretty strong there. Tarei didn't get off to the best start with his quest row, to be completely honest. He had, for example, Valera, his opening hand. We see a lot of players just having their 9 drops in hand when they don't really want them from early stages here.
Yeah.
But you'd have to say it's gone both ways so far in this series. But it is going to be 2-2 now for Muzzy and Tarei. Next matchup is going to be Warlock versus this Quest Rogue. Can Muzzy's little bit strange Warlock be able to take the win versus the Quest Rogue? Don't go anywhere. We'll find out after this. Round number 6, Muzzy and Tarei all even at 2-2. One more game left to step into a very, very comfortable position within the Swiss bracket. Muzzy has his Warlock, Tarei has his Quest Rogue to go up against with. This matchup, even though Muzzy's bringing a slightly, altered variation of the Warlock, it is just such a tough one, right? I feel like it's pretty close, even though a lot of people lean to Quest Rogue. Quest Rogue wins because Warlock's a control deck. It's like, well, maybe not quite in general, but What's going on with these hands, Sol, as you shake your head in disappointment?
Tarei took roughly 0.62 seconds to mulligan. He got rid of one card, he kept Sonya and Vanish. I was gonna say Varnish then. That's not a language. Yeah, obviously quest early on, and then you can just use Sonya to complete. Vanish is a key card as well if you're going to try and go late against the Warlocks, because you can essentially use Vanish just to two or three turn kill the opponent. You play some charges, you push damage, you vanish their Void Walkers or Void Lords, whatever else. You push damage, they replay more taunts, you vanish again, you kill them.
I do like, if you screenshotted these, okay, forget about the Shroom Brewer on the right, screenshot the two hands, Warlock toolkit, Rogue toolkit, because there's Doomsayer, but then there's Weapon, Gul'dan, Possessed Lackey, Dark Pact, and a Void Lord for the weapon. It's just so funny to see that basically that is Warlock in Muzzy's hand right now.
The Please Nerf starter pack.
Yes. Yeah, in one screenshot. Look at these two hands. Yeah, they're all the nerfs. Okay, some more life taps from Muzzy here, setting up the Doomsayer to go into a weapon turn, I imagine, especially because now he has Doomguard, which is a big deal. Just get that Doomguard down, start smashing face. Yeah, you got to start smacking him with Doomguards at some point. You don't have the resiliency and the long-term power of a Control Warlock. Sometimes the Control Warlock can outlast the quest rogue. It's rare, but it can happen. More so against kind of weaker quest rogue players who don't really know how to partition their threats properly, and also more successful against shallower lists, like Tarei's playing, actually. He's playing Wax Elemental instead of Igneous Elemental, for example. Control Warlock with Twisting Nethers and so on can just about get there. Without that, you have to find some way to get pressure, and Skull pulling out Doomguards and so forth is what you're going to want to be doing very, very soon. But Glacial Shard in hand for Tarei is going to be able to make a mess of that quite soon as well. And the 1 million Wax Elementals actually do a good job too. One of the benefits of Wax Elementals is the Divine Shield just alters the Defile Mats.
Yes.
You need to proc the Divine Shield, then have something else killed, and then you can start hitting the Wax Elementals, right? To be able to kill them off. There's a Giant from Muzzy, so that's another big deal there. The Giant is just going to put on a huge threat in itself. Maybe draw out the Glacial Shard, and if it's not bounced, it means that Doomguard and then the Giant can follow up collectively for a huge push of damage.
Crucially, the Tarei's list is not running Sap either. Many quest rogue lists on ladder, many in this tournament, run a single copy of Sap because of the popularity of Warlock. Quest Rogue is kind of a unique deck in how it interacts between ladder and tournament, because the ladder lists and the tournament lists are often very similar, because you don't bring Quest Rogue to a tournament intending to ban the most popular deck, right? You bring it to a tournament targeting the best deck. So the decks that you play on ladder to run into Warlock are what you use to then target them in a tournament format as well.
I will say right now, the pieces of the puzzle are coming together for Muzzy, because now he has Weapon into Doomguard, into Cube, into Dark Pact. But with this Vanish, the Void Lord goes back to hand, which means the Void Lord can be pulled again.
That is quest complete.
Yep.
And that is Sonya in hand, that is Valera in hand, that is Zola in hand, that is Youthful Brew in hand, Elven Minstrel rounding it out.
And Dagger.
If you needed more tools to be able to go long against this wall of potential Void Lords that are going to come down, Tarei has them all. So Muzzy can't outlast here. That Void Lord doesn't really matter from this position. Muzzy needs to find some way of making the Doomguard plan happen, and how does he do that against a wall of Wax Elementals that are about to be 5/5s?
It sounds bad, but I'm wondering now as to whether you actually... Oh, he doesn't really have the mana, does he? Like whether you go Lackey into Dark Pact to pull the Void Lord, because you need something to block what you know what the quest is going to be, at least for one turn. I don't know where you go from there, so I've not thought that far ahead. But I'm just currently in the please don't kill me, Mr. Quest Rogue, like moment, if I'm dipping into Muzzy's mind right now.
Almost out of time.
It's an ugly spot. Because, yeah, like I said, like you can play defensively and go for the second Void Lord, but Tarei's hand is so big that as Muzzy, like, are you expecting to be able to outlast? Like, I figure, like, I imagine Muzzy's thought process that entire turn. Do I have any aggressive line of play here? Answer, no, I don't. Okay, I just have to get a Void Lord on board and not die.
Yeah, and I think the idea might be now, hopefully for Muzzy, I believe he'll want the second Void Lord pulled, and this just creates turn and turn and turn of, yeah, Tarei's not in trouble, but he's just having to punch down these annoying minions to get to him, and then Gul'dan straight after to go again, and then maybe at that point there's something Muzzy can do to maybe clear the board once and then say go. I think that's the only plan he's got, to be honest.
Yeah, and if that plan works, you'd have to rewind this game and look at Tarei using Vanish as a bouncer in this matchup, which is something that does leave you with that danger, because Vanish is your only answer to your only clean one-turn answer to the walls of Void Lords and Void Lords.
Well, locking out the Doomguard there, so locking out the only minion on the board that can actually kill any of these big guys. So this has to be some form of Doomsayer, do you think? He does have Kobold Librarian and now the Spellstone to kill off one and heal for 5.
Yeah.
There is still 2 taunts up. So you'd have to do on the cuff 15 damage available for Tarei to play around with next turn.
And this is the sacrifice that Muzzy had to make on that previous turn. It's why it's so scary to go down the defensive line when you're playing Q-Block. It's because now he doesn't have a Q-packed play available for one of those Doomguards that would just be insane this turn. If he could make 3 attacks with Doomguards here, he'd suddenly be in really good shape again.
I wonder whether there was a world where you tap for Pact. Oh, I would have got it.
You still got it?
Yeah, yeah.
That's an insane draw.
Double Pact this early.
You saw,
and even buffed the Spellstone, so it's safer than tapping.
I don't know if you saw Muzzy's facial expressions just tense up towards the end there as he tried to get all of those attacks through right as the rope was burning. But hey, your duplication technique is quite something, Muzzy.
Check this.
You've seen nothing just yet.
He didn't play around Sonya because he left the Doomguards on the board. What was Muzzy thinking?
What is this card?
Good?
Yes. Yeah, you got it. That's the word I was looking for.
Sometimes you overthink things, Saul, with your fancy words. Sometimes they're just the good old-fashioned ones get it done. Now the follow-up doesn't have to be deckhand at all, because the 5 damage to face does nothing this turn.
Right.
In the grand scheme of things.
Does the 5 damage killing a 2/1 ever do anything in terms of board clear potential is the other big question.
I mean, Hellfire sets up a double clearing 2 off if you leave them up.
It doesn't kill Sonya, right? I feel like going to any length you possibly can to protect Sonya.
But yeah, that's what I mean. If you kill them, then trade Hellfire doesn't
Exactly.
clear the important parts of your board. Yeah. This has to be Doomsayer, right? Some kind of
I feel like you've been saying that for like 4 turns. Now this is the Doomsayer turn.
Well, I didn't expect him to get Dark Pact off the top, so oh, come on. He needs to buy time to Gul'dan, though.
Ooh.
This is Godfrey, right?
It doesn't do anything.
No. So it's probably Doomsayer.
You got it.
Yes.
And you see the lack of sap and the usage of the early Vanish is making Tarei's life very, very difficult here. Of course, it's not that simple. He would not be in this position with this many 5/5s and this much damage being able to be pushed if he didn't use that Vanish to set up his bouncers, because I believe he bounced 2 Wax Elementals with it at the same time. So if he didn't use that, he would be much, much slower on his quest completion. There's every chance Muzzy could have got that aggressive line going with the Doomguards and then cubed and been pushing himself. Yeah. You can see how important it is to have those tools available to you in the later stages of the matchup.
Tarei can kill this Void Lord. And can he take all of the Void Walkers. Yeah, he can't actually take the Doomsday, right? He just has 2 bounces, so he can't do enough to actually kill the Doomsday.
No, he's just popping open the Void Lord so the Void Walkers don't remain. I suspect it's for Lyra time.
He needs something because he has to be expecting Gul'dan next turn. You have to have a plan for Gul'dan.
Yeah. If Tarei could just keep waiting this out until he finds that second banish, though, he can be in business. But there are still 11 cards left, and he doesn't have cards that draw Vanish. He has Elven Minstrels that draw minions and thin his deck, but apart from the Novice Engineers, he doesn't just have natural card draw.
He has cards that help to draw Vanish.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it thins the rest of the deck.
Right.
Here's Gul'dan. Muzzy did just consider, just for a minute, to make sure he knows where he's at right here. 2? Wait.
Stealth.
Oh. I just looked down there. There's the Vanish. Go away. Is effectively what Vanish is saying right now. And so does this, how does this
Vanish
work? Does
does
this give him
not
Doomguard?
clear the board. It gives him, it goes left to right, so he'll get 3
so it
Void
gives him
Walkers
Doomguard.
now spawning onto the board because one of the Void Lords died, which is a little bit annoying for Tarei. He would have liked to push some damage there potentially. But he can redevelop the board, but now Muzzy just has Skull equipped and a handful of big old demons. Like, he's kind of fine with that. He's not dying anytime soon.
Also, to a certain extent, Muzzy would probably be okay just playing Doomguards from his hand at this point. Like, he needs to make something work. Oof.
That's
Swing and a miss.
not what you're looking for here.
Giant, okay. Giant Doomguard hero power.
There's no saps left. Both Vanishes are gone. Can we not just go endless wall of Void Lords?
Oh, you want to set up for also potential Godfrey? Soften them up for Lord Godfrey himself.
Yeah, why not?
The dual-wield pistol master.
Right, like if you get the Void Walker and the Void Lord out of your hand, then the Doomguards are coming out for you next turn anyway.
Sure.
Muzzy agrees with you though. Raven.
I mean, he's a clever guy.
confirmed. Yeah.
He's a clever guy, like I said.
Yeah.
And before he just plays like Plated Beetle.
I mean, Shrinker instead.
Yeah, it's pretty much agreed with me. Same idea.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't like just playing the Doomguards from hand. I don't think you're in like a great rush anymore. I think you've kind of turned the corner where you can rely on a bit of attrition. And
I'm probably overestimating the charges.
Right, and like I said, like the Doomguards are just coming out anyway. You know, like if they come out from, if you pull a Void Lord next turn, fine. Otherwise, you're getting one of those Doomguards anyway. I think just getting this amount of damage on board is just fine in this scenario.
So, because I've said a few smart things today,
Go on.
I'm going to go for something stupid.
Go on.
Is there a world in which you don't attack minions this turn?
What?
Well, you know he's going to pull a Void Lord or a Doomguard.
Okay.
If you fill the board and pass, then he isn't getting the power plays.
Okay.
Then you have 7 5/5s and Shadow Step next turn, and multiple Shadow Steps if the Valera power goes.
Okay.
And then maybe something happens where you win.
But if you don't take any of this damage off the board, he just hits you.
That's all right. Look, I was hitting my stupid quota for the day, okay?
All right, fair
Getting it
enough.
out early.
He knows there's 2 Doomguards in hand, so he has to remove damage from play, right? Yeah. Now he's just dead.
Because the Void Walkers can trade off, yeah? I'll provide some in-house commentary as TJ was over on the other side, waving arms and counting numbers and things. I was like, he's dead. So the trade-off will be enough. I think it was 20 with just the board and the hero power. But then obviously you could just trade a Void Walker off, play a Doomguard, and
Yeah, it's just a really strange play, because he knows the Doomguards are in hand, so if he doesn't take damage off the board, then he just plays 1 Doomguard from hand and hero powers him. There's no discard RNG on the second Doomguard, because he doesn't need the second Doomguard.
you've got the hero power, and Muzzy takes it.
What's really weird to me is that you suggested that play, and then Tarei actually did it, and it was that weird.
Yeah, it was a little bit nutty actually. I thought I was joking, to be completely honest. I was
Bizarre ending to that
providing
game.
just like something to consider of blocking demons from a weapon was the key point.
Right.
But it was not the end game play. But we can see some an interesting point from that game is I believe we do have a replay. So we can just take a look at something that happened here. Oh, so did he swing with his dagger and not be able to attack?
Choose soon.
Yeah.
There is a method to my madness.
Yeah, did he need to swing the dagger?